talk about is the importance of biodiversity. And first of all, one of the important things is aesthetics. We love to see these things, and they're good for us, and they keep us healthy when we see all this amazing biodiversity. So, next slide. So one of it's important. Next thing I wanted to talk about is locally. How many people here live in the high desert think that it's just a desert and there's nothing out there? Well, if you look around, you'll discover there's a lot out there. Maybe if you live in a tract, there's not so much. But actually, we live in one of the most biodiverse ecosystems, desert ecosystems in the world, if not the most biodiverse. So this slide just gives you an indication of some of the species. Somewhere on here is there a desert tortoise on here. We have an endangered species. Did you guys know that we have a whole herd of desert bighorn sheep just up in Lucerne Valley that the college here and our students have been working on, and they're very much endangered as a population. They're not endangered as a species, but that little population in Lucerne Valley is endangered actually from mountain lions. So biodiversity is very important, and we study it because it's a very important part of the environment and sustainability. If we're going to pass things on, a decent lifestyle, a decent world to our ancestors, our grandchildren, children, all that kind of stuff, we need to focus in on biodiversity, because we know that if we don't, the chances are the ecosystems are going to get very unhealthy. Next one. Okay, so Nick, you're just going to have to hit them. Fact sheet. Let's just talk about biodiversity. Biodiversity is important for the health of the planet. Yeah, you have a question?
I have a question about the last one.
Yeah.
When you said about the bighorn sheep.
Yeah, the bighorn sheep.
About the predators.
Yeah.
Well, if the bighorn sheep disappear from that area, won't the predators disappear as well?
Yeah. Well, what do you think the predator is that's causing trouble with the bighorn sheep? Mountain lion. What do you think the mountain lion will eat instead?
Rabbits.
Rabbits. What else? They'll eat Fluffy, your little dog, and your little cat. Sorry to tell you, but they're very adaptable, just as coyotes are. They're very adaptable, and they'll come down, and they come down regularly, and they'll adapt. So they'll find another food source. So good point. It is dependent, but actually what we know about some of these upper predators is that they're pretty adaptable. Yes, question?
One time a mountain lion would fire a house,
Yeah.
and this little chihuahua scared it away.
It scared it away. All right. Well, that's a tough chihuahua. I don't think the chihuahua understood what it was up against, but maybe it ate. What is that from? Cheetos or the chihuahua? Yeah, Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Okay. So here's some of the things. A fact sheet. Biodiversity is important for the health of the planet. All living things interact together, so we have to keep them in place. Fossil record that we're living in the time of some of the richest biodiversity. So that's good news. We still have a lot of biodiversity, we just need to be careful with it. Okay? Current extinction rates are greater than any time in the past. The natural extinction rate is about 4 species per year, and currently we might be as high as 1,000 times higher than that. Okay? 1,000 times 4, 4,000 species. And you're like, well, I don't think that many species died this last year. But remember, we don't even know maybe 5 to 10 to 15% of all the species. The species we really don't know a lot about are all the bacteria and all the microbes, and they're just as important. For example, we need the microbes and the bacteria in the soil to decompose all the organic matter, the leaves and our waste and all that stuff, so that we can get fertilizer. So some of those species are where some of this extinction is happening. So what causes this extinction? Well, and this lack of loss of biodiversity? Well, it's mostly human activity. So we are doing things like habitat alteration. I want you guys to write down one little acronym here. HIPPO. Can you guys write that down? HIPPO. And just on a piece of paper, you guys should be keeping notes. Isn't it part of the plan here? You guys keep notes? All right, from now on, when you're in our class and we're giving a lecture, we need notes. Well, HIPPO is a little acronym, and it stands for biodiversity loss. The H stands for habitat loss. The I stands for invasive species. The P stands for population. One of our biggest problems is we just have too many people. The other P stands for pollution. So that's a problem. We have too much pollution. And the O stands for over-harvesting. As we've got more technology, we can harvest more fish and more trees and all that. Yeah, question. Hippo, yeah. Okay, everybody quiet. Hippo. Hippos are... Does anybody think that hippos are just real cute, cuddly animals?
No.
Hippos are actually fairly destructive and fairly scary. I've been chased by one before. It wasn't too much fun. So hippo stands for, the H stands for, quiet please. H stands for habitat destruction. One of the ways we lose biodiversity is we destroy their habitat. So the burrowing owl is an example of that. Their numbers have plummeted over the last 20 years because we're destroying their habitat. Around here, it's mostly through housing developments and off-road vehicles because they live out in the open and they burrow under the creosote bushes. And we're destroying their habitat. I stands for invasive species. So what do you guys think? Are these like the aliens or what are these? What's an example of invasive species? Well, like a tumbleweed. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, a tumbleweed, a salt-seeded tree. There's a bird going around right now called a cowbird, or a starling that invades other birds' nests. So I stands for invasive species. Species from somewhere else that outcompete the species that live here. Okay, so therefore they hurt biodiversity. P stands for population. And really what we're talking about here is the main environmental problem that we really have is just plain too many people. Okay? And that's not saying we want a whole bunch of people to die or anything, but we do know that we need to figure out ways to stop our exponential growth of people. Because this earth can only carry so many people. The Earth's carrying capacity. The second one is pollution, water pollution, air pollution. That affects biodiversity because it'll kill certain animals. Acid rain is where the pollution from Detroit's car factories would blow into Canada and rain down as acid rain. The last one is over-harvesting. So we go in with these big factory ships and we just harvest too many fish. And it just becomes a real problem. We can just use up too many. We really in this country and most of the first world have a problem of affluenza. We just want too many things and too much stuff and then we're incredibly wasteful. Okay? And so to help with this, what we did was we implemented the Endangered Species Act in the United States. And Lynn's going to talk about that. We came up with a political policy to make sure that people were even forced to protect biodiversity. They were forced to protect these species. So I think we could probably